this is Amber from the Happy Caravan. I'm a mom of 10 kids and we live in New York City. And my kids are all musical. In the background, you'll probably almost always be hearing music going on because that's how we roll around here. Anyway, so we moved to New York City so our kids could have all the classical music learning opportunities available in the city, which there's just so many. So far it seems like it's been a good choice, but the one thing about New York City is it's very expensive. And so I'm just gonna kind of give you guys a life update. In another video I shared about how, you know, since the pandemic and since we moved, it's been hard for my husband to find a job. You know, he's tried to do some freelance stuff, and he got a degree in graphic design. This is kind of like what our life update is about, is that we have maybe a little lead, which is exciting. But so he got a degree in graphic design, and he got it in like 2002, 2003. And the thing about graphic design in 2003 or whatever is that a lot of the things that like they taught you to do and a lot of things that people were willing to pay you to do, nowadays, you know, Canva will do for you for like, you know, $9.99 a month, or you know, Fiverr. And there's just a lot of, and so he as a father with 10 kids is competing with, you know, people that are like living with their mom that are willing to do it for $30, you know, but he would have to charge more. And so anyway, it's a complicated dynamic. The other thing he's really good at is creating 3D sorts of things, and like 3D printing, like has the mind for that. But then again, you know, people, because he was interested in perhaps maybe pursuing creating programs that people would get 3D printed, and like one-off parts, things like that, you know, are good for 3D printing. But what's going on is that people overseas, you know, that can command a much lower amount are also doing that, you know, and so he can't charge a living wage for that. So fast forward, he's just been kind of, and the thing, like, some people are like, oh, we could just stock shelves at a grocery store or something like that. And like, yes, he could, but he does a lot of work around here, that, you know, obviously that's part of how I'm able to, like, you know, make a living on social media, is that I'm able to have the time to edit and film and think and respond to comments and all this stuff, because he's doing a lot of the stuff I used to do. Like, he makes meals and he cleans. I plan all the meals and so forth, but he does a lot of the stuff that if I had to do all this stuff, there's no way I'd be able to make a single video, you know? So anyway, I really appreciate him. He's has an amazing skill set. He took our kitchen and he basically just like gutted the kitchen before we moved, before we sold our house in San Diego, and he made it into a beautiful kitchen. And you know, he does such a good job though. He's such a good detail man. So a lot of times, like with like flipping houses or this or that, they kind of just quickly, like, you know, make it look pretty, some band-aid fixes. He's not a band-aid fix kind of guy. He's like you make it perfect. So the person that bought our house, there were no band-aid fixes there. He did everything right, which is nice when you buy the house, but then when you're trying to like make money quick, that's not necessarily the best way to do that. So anyway, fast forward to today, and he remembered that somebody he had worked at the sign shop with, he built signs, like, you know, you go to a store or something, there's like a three-dimensional kind of like sign hanging off of the building and with lights in it and this and that. Like, he would design all that stuff. He would program the router table to cut the stuff out. It's all metal and foam core and all these different materials, LED lights, all these things. So there's a lot that goes into that, and he was very good at that. But that wasn't something he was really able to like take on the road with him when we moved from San Diego. So anyway, so now what he's looking into doing is maybe designing sprinkler systems for like houses and offices and this and that. So it's a kind of in-demand like profession, so he could actually like make money doing that. Like, you can make sometimes $100,000 a year doing this, sometimes more, you know. And so I'm like, okay, that's exciting, because he actually, somebody that he worked at the sign shop with before actually like is one of the leaders in this industry and so forth. I guess it's the person's wife, but anyway, so it's like, okay, this may be something he can do. So that's exciting, but here's the catch. So kind of right now we're just kind of he can buy. The catch is that, so we ended up purchasing a Macintosh computer for my husband during the pandemic to try and like, because that's good for graphic design, right? But a lot of the architectural software and a lot of the kind of like heady like, you know, three-dimensional drawing type stuff, that's often done on a PC. So we would need to get him a new computer. He has to go to like a 3-day training for this and 25 hours of online instruction and get a license and all this stuff. So that in total is going to be about like a $10,000 investment. We're just not financially at a place where we can like dive into that. But, you know, things are kind of coming up for us on social media and so forth, and so I'm hoping, you know, that I can help fund that, you know, in the near future. But the reason I'm even talking about this at all was we were doing a live the other night, kids were playing, and someone's like, oh, we're praying for your husband's job search. And I was like, I was so touched by that anyone even cares. It's like, oh, because, I mean, he's at a point, like he's 45, almost 46, you know, and so he's at a point where he needs to not just, you know, stock shelves, he needs to actually find something that he can kind of like grow into, and that's like designing that sort of a thing is something that's, I don't think, you know, Canva's gonna come in and take that job, you know. That's the sort of thing that I think he could be doing into his 70s, you know, which a lot of times, you know, there's this like battle over Social Security, this and that. Like, I don't even know if people our age are even going to see that, you know, so we just need to be prepared to work into our golden years, you know. So anyway, so that's kind of an exciting, like aha moment he's had, and he, you know, he's been in contact with the person. It's just the financial kind of like hurdle we need to get over, and you know, I mean, things are kind of working out for us on social media, and I just need to be able to cover more than like, you know, the rent, the food, so that we can also, you know, do that. Now, of course, the kids' music is still funded by their busking and musical performances, so that's like a separate thing, but you know, it's just, you know, step by step, we're just trying to find our way in this world. And then here's the other update. The Juilliard pre-college auditions for Elijah, Anna, and Chloe are coming up. And that's just like a really exciting, you know, thing for us, that kids, that they all got accepted to the in-person audition. Like, that's really exciting. So, you know, what's interesting is that when we moved here, you know, 3 of the kids got accepted to Juilliard. Josiah got accepted to Manhattan School of Music, but like all of the kids, all 7 of the kids that applied have been hanging out on the Juilliard campus. They're not necessarily enrolled. So Josiah, he goes to Manhattan School of Music, but he hangs out at Juilliard sometimes for the Christian club there, and it's like so he's like friends with the people there. You know, of course, Pearl goes there. Elijah, he's been to some like group class things there, or like I guess they call it studio class things there. He's also been to some of the concerts, and then Anna and Chloe, their teachers teach at Juilliard, and so sometimes they'll actually go to Juilliard for lessons there, which is like so it's like, it's interesting how even though like they all didn't necessarily get accepted last year, they're all there, you know, like their whole, you know, kind of being involved in the kind of the community there, which is, it's exciting, you know. But one thing that's interesting that's happened with Elijah is that, you know, he didn't get accepted last year, and, you know, I kind of got in trouble on the internet because I was like, you know, I just don't know if he tried hard enough, you know. And I don't know if he did. I just know him, and I know when he's really trying and when he's kind of like, see what happened in the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. He was kind of a big fish in a littler pond. He would audition for an orchestra position, or he'd audition for different like chamber music or this, that, and he'd always be like the top dog, you know. And so I think he just felt really comfortable in that. But this year has been really good for him. Elijah is studying with a person named Leo Singer, who is under someone named Richard Aaron. And Richard Aaron is a very like kind of like, he's really changed. He's a cello teacher that's really changed the dynamic of cello. You know, I mean, it's like about how you learn cello. And I mean, so what happened was, you know, Richard Aaron is like in such demand that he had Elijah study with Leo Singer, who, you know, Richard has people go to kind of learn some of the basics of Richard's teaching. And so, I mean, it's just been amazing what Leo has been able to teach Elijah. And what's interesting is that these lessons are actually on Zoom. So if last year he had been accepted to Juilliard pre-college, he wouldn't have studied with Leo. And Richard Aaron, you know, doesn't really take pre-college students usually. If it is, it's on a very like, I know you basis, So, it's just interesting how, even though things technically went bad last year, Elijah not getting accepted, it ended up being good because he was able to study with this really like revolutionary, like this is how you play cello approach. And it's remarkable, how that all works out. And so anyway, he got to actually have a lesson with Richard Aaron. It was just so encouraging to hear Richard be like, wow, you really improved. You really like things that before were just, and I noticed it in Elijah's playing. A lot of the technique and just, the slow practice and the intervals and just these little technique things just make you look like, they make it look effortless. So here's the funny thing is that people a lot of times will see a cello player that's really working really hard and getting into it. And, that's good for show, but really a mark of a truly good musician is they make it look easy. Like make it look like, I'm not even trying. Because there's just like, if you know where those intervals are, if you know exactly where to put your fingers, like just these little intricacies that if you do it right, like you're like, wow. So, and just the intonation, I mean, it's so difficult to play a stringed instrument because there are no frets. It's not like a piano where if you play this note, you're playing the right note. I mean, there's just so many little nuances and what you do with your vibrato and, it's so much like the human voice, honestly. It's like, your human voice can be in a range of pitches and so forth. And yeah, and I find it's a stringed instrument is really interesting because it's one of the it's probably one of the easiest instruments to like get in on. Like 3-year-olds can play violin, plays rather complicated songs sometimes on the violin. And I mean, maybe piano, but like no other instruments is a 3-year-old going to be able to have some level of mastery. Or even a cello too, like that's a 3, like when Elijah was 3, he was able to play like Bach, minuets and so forth. It was very impressive. So the barrier to entry is not that hard, but to get it where it's just so good, where it's just like it takes you to another place in your mind. It's that beautiful. It's really hard to get there. It's really hard to get the intonation right. A lot of times in advanced pieces there'll be 2 different notes you're supposed to hit at the same time in tune. Like you have one finger on one string and another finger on another string. You just have to, So anyway, I mean, it's a battle. It's hard, and then, with our family, when our family's playing together, the dynamic of trying to have, like, not just one instrument doing that, but 4 instruments, 5 instruments, 6, 7, if there's 7 of them playing together, like, all of them doing that together, like getting their intonation right and just nailing it, it's hard, So, anyway, it's exciting to like kind of see this little group, evolve. And it's funny, like I used to I posted videos. We have another YouTube channel called Dilemot Strings, if you want to see like the history of where we've been, And at the time, like the kids would have played a song or whatever, and I would post it, maybe a song together or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's just amazing, And I listen to them now and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I posted that, because my it's almost like, your French dining, it's like after that, it's like Taco Bell doesn't taste the same, the kids have just really come up and gotten more and more sophisticated in their playing. And so it's like, I'm kind of spoiled that. Anyway, so that's kind of exciting, like to see things kind of, moving along. And like, even though we had kind of the bumps of some of the kids not getting accepted at pre-college Juilliard, or even, Josiah not getting accepted at college level Juilliard, like things are still working out, and that's really exciting. Like, especially like since we made such a crazy move and did so many crazy things, we're like, did we make the right decision? And then you see things kind of working out, you're like, okay, Lord, maybe this was right, you know. You see your kids and you don't want them to ever suffer. You want them to always win the prize. You want no one ever to say, you know, no, you didn't make it, you know. But I mean, it's like, I think it's Gary Vaynerchuk says there are no 8th place trophies. I mean, that's just the way the world works. It's unfortunate, you know. I wish there were, like, you know, everybody wins, you know, but the world is not like that, you know. There's people that, you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and I think, you know, if anything, this move was particularly good for Elijah because where he was at pre-college San Francisco Conservatory of Music, I don't think he was being pushed to be his like best self, you know. It is a fantastic program. There's not as much competition. It's just a lot more competitive here, and so the bar's higher, and so, you know, it's like, you know, you can't skip out on that practice. You know, you're just gonna save his energy if you can, you know. But I think the other thing too is he's a kid, you know. I mean, like I was reading the other day that kids spend like 7 to like 13 hours on social media, like on average, you know. But, you know, that's a long time to be on social media. So, you know, I just think kids are naturally going to gravitate towards things that are just easier. Like, I think we all do. I think that's just human nature. It actually takes a level of maturity to be like, to love the fight, you know, to love the misery of hard work and see that it, you know, really pays off. Like, sometimes it takes a level of maturity that just a teenager doesn't have. And so kind of the, you know, camaraderie of kids around you that are like, you know, keep going, like that really helps. So, yeah, I mean, we've learned a lot of really valuable lessons along the way. And, yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else really going on in our lives right now that hasn't, you know, it's been like a week since I last sat down. But, yeah, I mean, it's exciting to see growth, you know. I mean, you want your kids to grow, you want them to be challenged, and you know, I'm grateful to see that. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and I hope to see you next time.